With just 24 days until Election Day, Vice President Harris is set to release a report on her medical history today. A senior Harris aide says the report will show she's physically and mentally fit to serve as president. And by making this public, the Harris team hopes that it underscores Donald Trump's lack of transparency, let's just say, when it comes to his health. On the campaign trail, Trump rambles through speeches, as the New York Times puts it, quote, Trump has seemed confused, forgetful, incoherent, or even just disconnected from reality lately. And frankly, Donald Trump's rallies are also just full of lies and racist fear-mongering. In these final weeks of the campaign, the contrast could not be more clear.
Part of what we know has been happening in the last several years in our country is there's some powerful forces that are trying to divide us as Americans, would have us and cheer us on if we point fingers at one another.
America is known all throughout the world as occupied America. They call it occupied. We're being occupied by a criminal force. What they're doing to our country, they're destroying, they are ruining our country. We are being led by stupid people.
Well, we obviously need a professor in the house. So joining us is professor at Princeton University, Eddie Glaude Jr., and Juanita Tolliver is also here. Her new book, A More Perfect Party, The Night Shirley Chisholm and Diane Carroll Reshaped Politics, comes out in January, and I cannot wait. Both are MSNBC political analysts.
Good
Who
morning.
Want to take this, Michael?
So Eddie, I'm gonna go to, because Simone was right. We need some professorial understanding here. Kamala Harris is releasing her health records today. Every presidential candidate has, since presidential candidates have been releasing their records. Donald Trump has yet, and all the time that we have known of him and seen him, has refused to do so. He's had doctors sort of put together a piece of paper with a whole lot of BS on it about the man weighing 215 pounds, looking like Wally the Walrus. But okay, we'll set that aside. The New York Times, though, reports if he wins, Trump could enter the Oval Office with an array of potentially worrisome issues, medical experts say. Cardiac risk factors, possible after effects from the July assassination attempt, and the cognitive decline that naturally comes with an age, among other things. The man is old as dirt. He's the oldest man to ever run for president, and yet the country doesn't seem to care that he doesn't release his health records, that we have no idea what's going on in that little brain of his. Maybe he had brain worms like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We don't know. How does he get away with this, and why is the country so accepting that Donald Trump can just say, I'm not going to tell you about my health, but the press and others seemingly demand that everybody else put out theirs?
First of all, it's such a wonderful time to be here on the weekend, Michael, and to see you guys. But it's not. You don't require a professor to try to make clear or make plain what's going on. Donald Trump has been given a pass in so many ways. He represents not America as such, but a large slice of America. And there's this sense that the spoiled man can do whatever he wants because there's the fear that you will activate the anger of his base. And it seems to me that we've been tiptoeing around Donald Trump. That is not only the press, but also Democrats and particularly mainstream Republicans tiptoeing around Donald Trump for fear that he would activate the ugliness of his base and endanger the country. And I think that particular approach has come back to bite us in the behind.
It's interesting. I'm looking, Juanita, through this medical healthcare statement has now been released by the vice president's campaign. She sounds a lot like yours truly, where she has myopia. She needs corrective lenses in order to see. She's got what seem to be allergies. She takes Allegra, and she has a family history of maternal history of colon cancer. But otherwise, she herself in incredibly good health, signed off by a doctor. Meanwhile, you have Donald Trump talking about cylinders. Can we pull up the sound for Juanita of the former president at the Detroit Economic Club?
This isn't like Elon with his rocket ships that land within 12 inches on the moon where they wanted to land. Or he gets the engines back. That was the first I realized. I said, who the hell did that? I saw engines about 3-4 years ago. These things were coming, cylinders, no wings, no nothing. And they're coming down very slowly, landing on a raft in the middle of the ocean someplace with a circle. Boom. Reminded me of the Biden circles that he used to have, right? He'd have 8 circles and he couldn't fill them up. But then I heard he beat us with the popular vote. I don't know. I don't know.
It's not funny, Juanita, right? Because that is the person who currently is vying to once again sit behind the Resolute desk. We don't know anything about his health.
He not only wants to sit behind the Resolute desk, he also wants access to the nuclear codes. And I think this is the last thing he wants to be talking about in the last 3 weeks leading up to the election, because not only does it live up to what Vice President Harris has been saying, just watch his rallies to see the rambling and the nonsense, but it also shines a light on his vice presidential pick. He is the oldest man to seek the presidency. And the reality is what that means, with this lack of a health report and the lack of transparency, the nation has to look at J.D. Vance like, oh, you could actually get access to the Oval Office. You could actually be the person who steps in for Trump should anything happen to him. And the important reality is that politically, this hurts Donald Trump. And I think that's something that the vice president and her campaign are going to be emphasizing over the next few weeks, extending from their, again, watch his rallies, watch the nonsense for yourself, but another opportunity to put Donald Trump on defense in these last few weeks.
Can we read more from the health report? Because we now have a copy in front of us as well. And I should note that this is what usually happens, right? Like every candidate, presidential candidate, we actually usually would have seen the first reports like this in a primary among presidential candidates, and then sooner than this in a general election. The memo was prepared by the communications director for the vice president, and it is from her physician, particularly the physician from the president. This is what it reads. It says, Vice President Harris is up to date on all preventative care recommendations, including colonoscopy, annual mammograms. She's taking vitamin D3 supplementation for skeletal health, aren't we all? And she is at low risk for cardiovascular disease. There's a word before that that I cannot pronounce. She maintains a healthy, active lifestyle despite her busy schedule, including vigorous daily aerobic exercise and core strength training. She eats a very healthy diet. She does not use tobacco products and drinks only occasionally and in moderation. Routine immunizations are all up to date. Do we think we're going to see one of these from Donald Trump? One, Eddie, and then two, this is one of the campaign is attempting to force a conversation about Donald Trump's age and his health. I'm wondering, do folks think that is in this, a little over 2.5, 3 weeks left in Election Day? Is that the ground that they would like to be on?
So first of all, Simone, he's not going to submit his medical report. Mm-hmm. And second, it doesn't matter. His support isn't contingent upon his healthiness. His support isn't contingent upon his reasonableness. His support is contingent upon him being an avatar for grievance and hatred, right? So part of what we have to understand, I understand that this might be, releasing the vice president's medical reports might be important for a few undecided voters, for that middle that they're trying to get. But in terms of the overall process, the political process at this stage of the game, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump is out there running his mouth, not making any sense, weaving, bobbing, doing whatever he's doing, and folk will continue to support him, and he will continue to stoke all of the ugliness that we are experiencing as of late. So I think this is important for the middle, for those undecideds, perhaps, but it's not going to have any impact on Donald Trump's campaign.
So Juanita, let's put the health reports in a little bucket that it'll go in that most people will ignore relative to Donald Trump, and there will be some folks who will nitpick what Simone just read and go, well, she's got
drinking wine.
She's drinking wine and she's taking D3. Oh my God, there's something wrong with her. 24 days out. Mm-hmm. Health reports are coming out. We've got more than enough evidence of Donald Trump's incapacity to put together a coherent statement. His incapacity to lay out a plan or a vision for the country beyond some dystopian landscape that is nothing more than a hellscape, as you noted, of grievance. Where does the campaign go in these last 24 days? You know, we'll get into conversations a little bit about, you know, what's happening with some of the voters out there who still are undecided. I'm talking to y'all. I got something for you. So just, whoo, baby, 24 days out and you still don't know after 9 years of this ish? Anyway, where do you think this goes for the campaign, for her campaign? She's doing all the right things and is still tied with this former president.
You can say it. You can say it. Okay.
With this former president. I
feel like it's all about mobilization, and I emphasize that understanding that early voting started weeks ago, Michael.
Right.
People are casting their ballots in real time, and Election Day is, in fact, the last day to vote. And so I think focusing on that, focusing on the grassroots, and I'm a girl who came up in field operations. That's where you win. And so I fully expect this national conversation to be whatever it's going to be. The headlines can ask the questions about what Trump is hiding by not releasing his report. But the reality is, how many voters are calling their friends and family after they've cast their early vote? How many volunteer shifts are you picking up? How many people are you deploying in North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona? That's where the attention should honestly be. And we're seeing that pick up with her deployment of surrogates across the country. And so I think that is the only thing that matters to everyday people and the campaign staff. Remember, Vice President Harris, she is leading this effort, but she is not the sole person running this race. She has hundreds of thousands of staff on the ground, and not hundreds of thousands of staff, but volunteers and staffers working across the country. And Democrats have been intentional about the infrastructure they've been investing in long term to try to realize a positive outcome in this election.
Okay, so you've helped me avoid having to get in trouble with Simone and Alicia this morning.
No curse words.
Help, Alicia, help.